Today we're diving into a topic that most men never truly understand, but absolutely need to master. The art and dark psychology of ignoring a woman. Now, when I say ignoring a woman, I don't mean playing childish games or acting cold for no reason. I'm talking about one of the most powerful psychological tools a man can use in relationships, dating, and attraction, the ability to control your attention. Because here's the reality. Your attention is the most valuable currency you have. The man who knows when to give it and when to take it away will always have the upper hand. Think about it. From the moment you start talking to a woman, she's reading you. She's testing your confidence, your patience, your neediness. And if you're the type of man who responds instantly to every text, who gets flustered when she pulls back, who never gives her space to miss you, you've already lost ground. Ignoring, when used with purpose, flips the dynamic. It creates curiosity, tension, and respect. It forces her to realize that your world doesn't revolve around her, and that's exactly what makes you stand out from the rest. Every guy knows what it feels like when a woman suddenly goes silent. It gets in your head, doesn't it? You start questioning yourself, replaying conversations, wondering if you messed up. That's the power of silence. It makes the mind spiral. Now imagine if you knew how to harness that same psychological force. That's what this video is all about. We'll break down the psychology behind ignoring, how to use it without coming across as insecure or bitter, and why it's one of the most effective ways to shift power back into your hands. By the end, you'll understand how to use this art not just to attract women, but to build respect, confidence, and control in every interaction you have. Because once you master the dark psychology of ignoring a woman, you'll never chase validation again. You'll have her chasing yours. 1. Why ignoring her makes you more attractive than chasing ever will. Every man has been told at some point, if you like her, show her, be persistent, don't give up. And while that sounds romantic on paper, in reality, it usually backfires. Chasing a woman, texting her non-stop, begging for her time, rearranging your life just to be available, doesn't make her value you more. It makes her see you as another guy who puts her on a pedestal. And the moment she senses that you're chasing, she instinctively pulls away because what's too easily available never feels valuable. Now here's where ignoring flips the script. Think about the last time you wanted something badly. Maybe it was a car, a limited edition sneaker, or even a job opportunity. The more scarce it seemed, the more your mind fixated on it. That same psychology applies in relationships. When a man knows how to withhold attention, it creates scarcity. It sends a message. I'm not desperate, I'm not waiting by my phone, and my life doesn't revolve around you. And that's the exact energy women find irresistible. A real-world example. Let's look at celebrities. Ever notice how women throw themselves at men like Leonardo DiCaprio, Future, or Michael B. Jordan, not because they're constantly chasing women, but because they appear untouchable? They're not begging for attention. If anything, they're the ones choosing when and how to engage. That creates an aura of mystery, and mystery breeds attraction. You don't have to be a Hollywood star to apply this. The principle is the same. The less available you make yourself, the more she'll want to figure you out. Chasing tells a woman, you're the prize. Ignoring tells her, I'm the prize. And here's the twist. Most men are so terrified of losing a woman that they do the opposite of what actually works. They overcompensate with attention, thinking they're building a connection, when in reality, they're stripping away all the excitement. Psychologically, ignoring activates something powerful called the uncertainty principle. People value what they can't fully predict. If she always knows you'll reply instantly, there's no tension. But if you pull back, if she's not sure when you'll call, text, or see her, it keeps her guessing. And that guessing builds obsession. This doesn't mean you play games or act like a jerk. It means you recognize your value and stop handing out your time and energy like it's free candy. The more selective you are, the more she craves it when you do give it. The truth is simple. Ignoring a woman makes you more attractive because it forces her to see you as a man in demand, a man with options, a man she has to work for. And in a world where most men are chasing, the one who doesn't becomes unforgettable. 2. The silent power move. Women hate but secretly respect. Silence is one of the most underrated power moves a man can make. Most men don't understand it because society trains them to do the opposite. Over-explain, apologize too much, and always keep the conversation going so she doesn't lose interest. But here's the secret. Silence is not weakness, it's dominance. When you choose silence instead of chasing arguments, begging for her time, or reacting to her drama, you immediately shift the balance of power. Women hate this at first because it takes away their control. They can't read you, they can't predict you, and they can't manipulate your emotions as easily. But deep down, they respect it because it shows you're not ruled by impulse or emotion. Let's use a real example. Imagine she's pulling one of those classic tests. She delays replying to your text for hours, or she suddenly acts cold to see how you'll react. Most men panic, they double text, ask what's wrong, or try to fix the vibe. That response communicates desperation, and she wins the game. But the man who stays silent, who doesn't take the bait, communicates something far more powerful. I'm not bothered. I move at my own pace. That silence eats at her. She starts questioning. Why isn't he reacting? Why isn't he chasing me like every other guy? Did I miscalculate his interest? That mental spiral is exactly what shifts the dynamic, and the more she thinks, the more invested she becomes. Here's the psychology. Silence creates a vacuum, and human nature hates vacuums. We rush to fill them. When you stop giving her constant validation, she has two choices: walk away or step up and put in effort. And the truth is, most women, especially if they were testing you, will step up. Not because you begged, but because your silence forced them to. The key here is discipline. Silence isn't easy, especially when emotions are high. It's tempting to respond, to explain, to prove your point. But the man who can master restraint sends a louder message without saying a single word. I don't need to win you over. I'm already enough. Think of great leaders, kings, or high-status men in history. They weren't the ones shouting the loudest or chasing approval. They spoke when it mattered, and their silence carried weight. You need to embody the same energy in your relationships. Not every moment requires your words. Sometimes the strongest thing you can say is nothing at all. So, while women may complain about your silence, while they may act frustrated when you don't bite at every test, understand this. Deep down, they respect it. Because silence isn't avoidance, it's control. And control is the ultimate display of masculine strength. 3. How attention withdrawal triggers her deepest insecurities. Attention is the fuel of every relationship. Women thrive on it, they measure their value by it, and they often test men to see just how much of it they can control. That's why pulling back your attention, whether it's through delayed replies, not reacting emotionally, or focusing on your own life instead of orbiting around hers, creates a psychological shift that most men underestimate. It doesn't just make her curious, it touches something much deeper, her insecurities. Here's the reality. From an early age, women learn that beauty and charm get them attention. Compliments, stares, likes on social media, it becomes their currency. So when a man suddenly withdraws attention, it rattles the foundation of how she measures her worth. She starts asking herself questions she never wants to ask. Am I losing my influence? Did I overplay my hand? Is he interested in someone else? That internal dialogue is the exact reason why attention withdrawal is so powerful. It makes her evaluate herself instead of constantly evaluating you. Let's put this into a real-world scenario. Imagine you've been giving her your full energy, texting consistently, making time for her, showing interest. Then one day, you decide to shift gears. You don't initiate as much. You take longer to reply, and you invest that energy into your gym sessions, your business, or your goals. Suddenly the script flips. She notices the difference. She feels the void. At first, she might act annoyed, accuse you of being distant, or try to provoke a reaction. But beneath that surface frustration lies a fear. Why isn't his attention glued to me anymore? And this is where her insecurities bubble up. If she's used to every man chasing, she'll now be confronted with the reality that she doesn't control you. That uncertainty can trigger everything from jealousy to competitiveness. because women crave to feel chosen. By withdrawing attention, you force her to step into a position she rarely experiences, earning validation instead of just receiving it. Now, don't misunderstand. This isn't about being cruel or manipulative. It's about self-respect. When you stop giving unlimited attention, you're communicating that your life doesn't revolve around one woman's approval. And paradoxically, that's what makes her chase it harder. She wants to reclaim that validation. She wants to prove she still matters. The psychology is simple. What we fear losing, we value more. By withdrawing attention, you position yourself as something she could lose. And that fear will keep you in her mind far longer than any sweet text or compliment ever could. So the next time you feel tempted to shower her with endless attention, remember this. What feels like effort to you often feels like suffocation to her. But when you pull back, when you create that space, you're not pushing her away. You're pulling her deeper into the game of attraction by triggering the insecurities she works hardest to hide. 4. Turning cold silence into unstoppable desire. If you want to understand the power of silence in attraction, think about sports. In any game, basketball, soccer, boxing, the best athletes know the importance of pacing. They don't sprint at full speed the entire match because they'd burn out quickly. Instead, they conserve energy, pick their moments, and strike when it matters most. The same principle applies to women and relationships. If you're constantly flooding her with attention, there's no suspense, no tension, no anticipation. But when you use cold silence strategically, you create unstoppable desire, because desire is born out of anticipation. Let's break it down. Imagine watching your favorite team play. The score is tied, the clock is ticking, and the stadium falls into complete silence before the final play. That silence isn't weakness, it's pressure. It makes your heart race, your mind focus, and your emotions intensify. Women experience something similar when a man pulls back into silence. She expects you to chase, to react, to always keep the energy alive. But when you don't, when you hold that silence like an athlete holding his stance before the final move, it creates tension she can't ignore. This is where most men fail. They confuse constant communication with connection. They think if they don't keep texting, calling, or planning dates, she'll lose interest. But in reality, the opposite is true. Cold silence forces her to feel the absence of your presence, and absence makes value grow. Think about injured star players. When they're off the field, fans and teams suddenly realize how much they're missed. Your silence creates that same effect. It makes her realize the weight of your presence by experiencing what it feels like without it. The key is control. Silence only works if it's grounded in confidence, not fear. If you're quiet because you're sulking or scared, she'll sense weakness. But if you're silent because you're focused on your goals, your grind, your mission, then your silence radiates power. It says, I don't need to fill the space with words to prove my worth. And here's the psychology. Silence builds desire through imagination. When she doesn't hear from you, her mind starts filling in the blanks. What is he doing? Who is he with? Why isn't he reaching out? That curiosity becomes obsession, and that obsession quickly turns into desire. So the next time you feel tempted to over-explain, to defend yourself, or to fill awkward pauses with nervous chatter, stop. Remember the athlete before the winning shot. Remember the tension in the stadium before the ball is thrown. That silence is the moment that makes everything unforgettable. Cold silence, when used with intention, is not distance, it's strategy. It turns ordinary interactions into emotional highs. It makes her crave your presence more than your words. And once you master it, you'll realize silence doesn't push her away. It pulls her in, stronger than anything else you could say. 5. Why ignoring a woman separates leaders from followers. Every man wants to be seen as a leader in a relationship. But here's the problem. Most men act like followers without realizing it. They wait on a woman's texts, they adjust their schedules around her whims, and they constantly seek her approval. That's not leadership, that's submission. And the reason ignoring a woman separates leaders from followers is simple. Leaders don't chase validation, followers do. Let's paint a realistic scenario. Imagine two men dating the same type of woman. Man A is the follower. Whenever she takes hours to reply, he anxiously waits and then responds immediately the moment her message pops up. If she cancels plans, he says, "No problem, whenever you're free." If she pulls away, he doubles down, trying to win her back. To her, he's predictable. She knows she controls the pace. And predictability kills attraction. Now, enter man B, the leader. When she delays her reply, he doesn't rush. He responds when he's available, not when she demands. If she cancels plans, he doesn't beg for another chance. He simply says, "All right, I'll use the time for something else." And if she tries to play games, he doesn't chase. He stays silent and focused on his own priorities. To her, that silence is loud. It communicates strength. It shows that his world doesn't bend to her moods. And that makes him the leader in her eyes, even if she won't admit it. This difference boils down to respect. Women don't respect men who hand over control of their time and emotions. They may tolerate them, they may even keep them around for attention, but they don't truly admire them. Respect is reserved for the man who shows he can walk away, the man who doesn't beg for her presence, the man who ignores when necessary instead of chasing like everyone else. Think about any leader you admire, whether in business, sports, or history. They don't respond to every distraction. They stay focused on their mission. The same applies to your dating life. When you can ignore games, ignore tests, and ignore behaviors that try to pull you out of frame, you prove you're in control of yourself. And that self-control is what women recognize as leadership. The irony is that ignoring doesn't push women away. It separates the serious from the casual. Followers drown in her attention-seeking tests. Leaders rise above them. And women always end up chasing leaders, because deep down, every woman wants a man she can look up to, not one she can control. So the next time you feel the urge to respond instantly, to prove yourself, or to chase when she pulls back, remember this. Ignoring is not about being cruel. It's about holding the frame. Followers give in. Leaders stand firm. And in relationships, just like in life, it's the leaders who always win respect, desire, and power. 6. The hidden psychology. Why women obsess over men who pull away. Let's get straight to it. Women don't obsess over men who are always available. They obsess over the men who know how to pull away. Why? Because pulling away taps into one of the deepest psychological triggers inside a woman's mind. The fear of losing influence over a man she desires. Think about it. When you're constantly around, texting nonstop, liking every photo, and always making yourself available, there's no challenge. She doesn't have to think about you because you're already there. But when you pull away, when your energy shifts, when your attention isn't guaranteed, suddenly you become the most important thing on her mind. Here's the psychology behind it. Humans value uncertainty more than certainty. When the outcome is predictable, we take it for granted. But when it's unpredictable, our brain becomes hooked. Casinos are built on this principle. The uncertainty of winning keeps people addicted. Relationships work the same way. If she's not sure when she'll see you, if she's not sure how much attention you'll give, if she feels that gap when you pull away, her brain gets hooked on you. And here's what makes this powerful. Pulling away doesn't just create desire. It creates obsession. A woman starts replaying interactions in her head. She wonders why you stopped texting so much. She checks your social media more often. She might even test you harder just to confirm if you still care. That's the hidden psychology. By creating space, you create emotional investment. Let's be clear. This doesn't mean you disappear completely or act cold out of spite. Pulling away works only when it comes from strength. It's when you're genuinely focused on your mission, your goals, and your growth. It's when you send the message without saying a word. I'm not here to entertain you 24/7. I have my own path to walk. That energy drives her crazy because most men do the opposite. They smother her with attention. A confident man knows that silence and space work better than words. For example, say you've been seeing a woman who suddenly starts pulling back, being distant, or testing your patience. The average man panics, chasing harder to fix things. But the man who pulls away, who stops feeding her ego and puts his energy into his own life, sends the ultimate message: I'm not afraid to lose you. And that's the exact moment she feels the risk of losing you, and obsession kicks in. Here's the bottom line. Women obsess over men who pull away because it forces them to do something rare in today's world: fight for your attention. And when she's chasing you, she's emotionally invested. That's the game most men never learn. But the men who do? They stop chasing women forever because women start chasing them. 7. How to ignore without losing respect or looking weak. Ignoring a woman can be one of the most powerful tools you have, but only if you do it right. The problem is, a lot of men hear the word ignore and immediately take it too far. They cut her off completely, act bitter, or play childish games. That doesn't create respect, it creates resentment. The art of ignoring isn't about being cold, it's about being calculated. Done correctly, it builds desire. Done wrong, it makes you look insecure. So how do you strike the balance? The first rule is don't ignore out of emotion. If you go silent because you're angry, jealous, or hurt, she'll feel it instantly. That kind of ignoring doesn't show strength. It shows you can't manage your emotions. A strong man ignores from a place of calm control. It's not punishment, it's positioning. You're simply choosing not to feed behaviors that don't deserve your energy. For example, let's say she tries to start drama over something small, like why you didn't text back fast enough. The weak man argues, defends himself, or apologizes unnecessarily. The strong man? He doesn't take the bait. He lets her cool off. He stays focused on his priorities. And when he does respond, it's measured and calm. That kind of ignoring isn't weak, it's powerful, because it shows you can't be rattled. Another key rule is ignore selectively, not endlessly. If you ignore everything she does, you come across as detached or uninterested, and eventually she'll stop caring. But when you strategically ignore her games, her tests, or her attempts to control you, while still rewarding her positive behavior with attention, you create balance. That's what earns respect, showing her that your attention has value and she has to earn it. Think about it like this. In business, successful leaders don't answer every email or attend every meeting. They prioritize what deserves their time. You need to treat your attention the same way. If she's bringing chaos, silence is the response. If she's bringing peace, warmth, and effort, that's when you give your presence. That's not weakness, that's leadership. And here's the hidden beauty of it. Women actually respect men more when they can't control them emotionally. She may act upset in the moment, she may even push back against your silence, but deep down she admires it, because she knows most men crumble under pressure, and you didn't. That's what makes you stand out. So the secret is simple. Ignore with purpose, not with pettiness. Use it as a tool to maintain your frame, to show self-discipline, and to prove that your attention isn't free. When you do this, you won't come across as weak. You'll come across as a man she has to respect, desire, and pursue. At the end of the day, ignoring a woman isn't about being cruel. It's about mastering control over your most valuable asset, your attention. Chasing makes you predictable. Silence makes you powerful. Every section we covered proves one thing. When you stop giving unlimited access to your time and energy, women feel it, they respect it, and they desire it more. The man who learns how to ignore with purpose separates himself from the crowd. So remember, you don't win by doing more. You win by making her realize you're the prize. Master that, and she'll never forget you.